Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The sky over Earth was no longer blue. A thin, almost imperceptible haze of silver hung in the atmosphere, a byproduct of alien industries reshaping the planet into something more useful to them. Cities, once the heart of human civilization, were now lifeless shells, filled with alien technology and towering structures of harsh, angular designs. Above them, the skies buzzed with the low hum of alien crafts, perpetually reminding the inhabitants below of their dominance. Ethan stood in the shadow of one such tower, his back aching from another day of hard labor. He was a human, like the rest, subjected to the genetic modifications the alien overlords had imposed. The changes were subtle but devastating. The humans had been made more compliant, their rebellious streak dampened. Resistance, if any, was weak and short-lived. Ethan's once strong muscles had softened from the adjustments to his DNA, his sharp mind dulled by years of alien conditioning. He clenched his fists, a surge of frustration flooding his body. He could remember a time before the invasion, when he had been a soldier, proud and free. Those memories felt distant now, as if they belonged to someone else, but they were still there, buried beneath the layers of alien control. He longed for the fire that had once burned inside him, a fire that had been all but extinguished by the alien overlords. The alien alliance, known as the Zenith Dominion, had come to Earth with promises of peace and advancement. Their technology had dazzled humanity, and in exchange for access to Earth's resources, they offered medical advancements, genetic enhancements that would supposedly make humanity stronger, healthier. But it was all a lie. The Zenith Dominion saw humanity as nothing more than another species to conquer, another world to strip of its worth. The genetic modifications they had introduced weren't for human benefit, they were meant to make humans docile, to eliminate their potential for rebellion. Ethan gritted his teeth as he walked through the ruined streets of the city. He had heard rumors, whispers of an underground resistance that had found a way to fight back, to break free of the genetic chains the Zenith Dominion had placed upon them. But that was all they were, rumors. The Dominion's control was too strong, their surveillance too advanced. If there was any resistance left, they were in hiding, and it seemed impossible for anyone to challenge their rule. Yet, despite everything, a small part of Ethan held on to hope. It was buried deep, beneath layers of cynicism and despair, but it was still there. He needed something to believe in, something to keep him from falling completely into the void of alien control. As Ethan made his way to his assigned living quarters, he noticed a figure standing in the alleyway. A woman, her eyes sharp and determined, with a posture that spoke of defiance. She was different, too confident for someone living under alien rule. Ethan felt a tug of curiosity, and against his better judgment, he approached her. "You're Ethan, right?" the woman said, her voice low but steady. He froze, caught off guard. "Who are you?" "Mara," she replied. "I've been watching you." "You used to be a soldier." "How do you know that?" Ethan asked, his heart pounding in his chest. "I know a lot of things," Mara said, a faint smile on her lips. "I know that you hate what's happened to our world. I know that you still have the fire in you to fight back, even if you don't believe it." Ethan frowned, glancing around the alleyway. "You shouldn't be talking like that. The Zenith have eyes and ears everywhere." Mara shrugged. "Let them listen. They won't understand what I'm about to say, anyway." Ethan's curiosity deepened. There was something about her that felt a broken bar different. He couldn't explain it, but she seemed unaffected by the same lethargy and hopelessness that gripped the rest of the human population. "What do you want from me?" he asked cautiously. Mara stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "I want to show you something. Something that could change everything." Despite his reservations, Ethan followed her. They moved through the darkened streets, avoiding the alien patrols that marched through the city. After several minutes, they arrived at an old, abandoned building. Inside, Ethan could see a small group of people, all of them focused and alert, Nothing like the vacant expressions of the people outside. "This is the resistance," Mara said, gesturing to the group. "And we're not like the others. We've found a way to break free of the Zenith's control." Ethan looked at her skeptically. "How?" "Their genetic modifications don't define us," Mara interrupted. "They may have altered our DNA, but they didn't account for the mind's power. We've developed a technique here through mental meditation and physical training that allows us to tap into a part of ourselves they can't control." Ethan's skepticism grew. "Meditation? Physical training? That's how you plan to take down the Zenith Dominion?" "It's more than that," Mara said. "Through this training, we've discovered that the human mind and body have untapped potential. Potential the Zenith couldn't predict or control. We've broken free of their genetic chains, and we're getting stronger every day." Ethan hesitated. It all sounded too good to be true, but at the same time, something deep inside him stirred. If what Mara was saying was true, a broken bar, if there was even a chance that they could fight back a broken bar. "I want to see for myself," Ethan said finally. "Show me what you can do." Mara nodded, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. "Follow me." Over the next few days, Ethan was introduced to the rebels' training regime. It was grueling both physically and mentally, but the results were undeniable. Through intense meditation, Ethan found himself unlocking abilities he had never known existed. His senses became sharper, his body stronger, his reflexes quicker. The more he trained, the more he realized that Mara had been right. The Zenith may have altered his DNA, but they hadn't stripped away his humanity. They hadn't taken away his ability to grow, to evolve. But the training wasn't just about physical strength. It was about tapping into something deeper, something that lay within every human being. It was about breaking free from the mental chains the Zenith had imposed and realizing the full extent of their own power. For the first time in years, Ethan felt hope. Real, tangible hope. As his training continued, Ethan grew closer to Mara and the other rebels. They were a small group, but they were determined. Each of them had their own reasons for fighting, their own stories of loss and suffering under the Zenith Dominion. But they all shared one goal: to free humanity from alien control. One night, as they sat around a small fire in the abandoned building, Mara told Ethan more about the Zenith's plans. "They're preparing to implement a final wave of genetic modifications," she explained, her voice grim. "It will make humans even more docile, even easier to control. If they succeed, it will be the end of any hope for rebellion." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we have to stop them," Mara nodded. "We will. But we'll need more than just our abilities. We'll need to strike at the heart of their genetic control system." Ethan's mind raced as they began to plan their next move. The rebels had a target: a Zenith genetic laboratory located deep within one of the alien strongholds. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the Dominion's control over humanity. The plan was daring and dangerous, but it was their only hope. Ethan, Mara, and a small group of rebels made their way toward the Zenith Genetic Laboratory, a sprawling fortress of alien technology buried deep within the outskirts of the city. The air was thick with tension as they moved through the shadows, avoiding the patrols that roamed the streets. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. They couldn't afford to make a single mistake. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as they reached the perimeter of the laboratory. The structure was heavily guarded, with alien sentries posted at every entrance. Mara signaled for them to hold back, her eyes scanning the area for any sign of weakness in the defense. Ethan crouched beside her, his muscles tense, ready to spring into action. "We'll go in through the ventilation system," Mara whispered. "It's risky, but it's our best shot." Ethan nodded, trusting her judgment. Mara had proven herself to be a capable leader, her mind sharp and her instincts keen. He followed her lead as they made their way to the ventilation shaft, carefully prying it open and slipping inside. The narrow metal tunnel felt claustrophobic, but Ethan pushed the discomfort aside, focusing on the mission ahead. This was the moment they had trained for, the moment they would strike back against their oppressors. The group moved silently through the ventilation system, inching closer to the heart of the laboratory. The air grew colder as they descended deeper into the facility, the hum of alien machinery growing louder. Ethan's pulse quickened as they reached their target, the control room where the genetic modifications were being overseen. The plan was simply disable the control system, disrupt the aliens' genetic modifications, and buy humanity more time. But nothing about their mission felt simple. Ethan could sense the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Failure was not an option. If they were caught, the Zenith Dominion would tighten their grip on humanity even further. The stakes were too high. Mara signaled for the group to halt as they reached the end of the ventilation shaft. Below them, through the slats of the grate, Ethan could see the control room. It was vast, filled with alien consoles and monitors displaying streams of genetic data. Zenith engineers, tall and coldly efficient, moved about the room, their long fingers dancing across control panels as they worked. "We have to take them out quietly," Mara whispered, her voice barely audible. "No alarms." Ethan nodded, adrenaline surging through his veins. He carefully removed the grate, lowering himself down into the room with the precision of someone who had done this 1,000 times. The other rebels followed, moving like shadows as they spread out, taking positions around the room. They had trained for these. Every move was rehearsed, every action deliberate. Ethan crept toward one of the engineers, his breath steady, his heart racing. In a fluid motion, he grabbed the alien from behind, silencing it before it could react. The others followed suit, neutralizing the remaining engineers with practiced efficiency. In minutes, the room was secured. Mara moved quickly to the central control console, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "This is it," she murmured. "This is where they control everything. The modifications, the monitoring, all of it." Ethan stood beside her, his eyes scanning the monitors. Rows of human genetic data flashed across the screens, each one a reminder of the Zenith Dominion's control over their species. He felt a surge of anger, but he forced himself to focus. This wasn't about rage, it was about freedom. "Can you shut it down?" Ethan asked. Mara nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm overriding the system now. Once I'm in, I'll initiate a complete shutdown of their genetic manipulation protocols. But it's going to trigger a security response. We need to be ready for a fight." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing as the Zenith's security systems kicked into action. Ethan cursed under his breath. They had been expecting this, but it still sent a jolt of fear through him. "Get ready," Mara said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We've got company." The doors to the control room burst open, and a squad of Zenith soldiers stormed in, their sleek armor glinting under the harsh lights. Ethan didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the nearest soldier, his enhanced reflexes and strength taking over. The fight was brutal, but the rebels were prepared. Each of them had trained for this moment, their bodies and minds pushed to the limit through years of meditation and physical conditioning. Ethan's movements were fluid, almost instinctual, as he dodged and countered the Zenith soldiers' attacks. He could feel the power coursing through him, the result of the intense training that had unlocked the potential within him. He was faster, stronger, and more focused than he had ever been. This was the true strength of humanity, something the Zenith could never control. Beside him, Mara fought with the same intensity, her movements precise and deadly. The rebels moved as one, a coordinated unit that had transcended the limitations the Zenith had imposed upon them. For every soldier they faced, there was a counter, every attack met with an even stronger defense. But the Zenith were relentless. More soldiers poured into the room, their weapons blazing as they tried to overwhelm the rebels. Ethan knew they couldn't hold out forever. They needed to finish the job and get out. "Mara," Ethan shouted over the noise of the battle, "we need to move." "I'm almost done," Mara called back, her fingers still working furiously at the console. "Just hold them off a little longer." Ethan gritted his teeth, his body moving on pure instinct as he fought off another wave of soldiers. Time seemed to slow down as he ducked and weaved, his mind laser focused on the task at hand. The weight of the mission pressed down on him, but he refused to falter. Not now, not when they were so close. Finally, Mara let out a triumphant shout. "I've got it!" The system is down. Ethan turned to see the monitors go dark, the streams of genetic data disappearing from the screens. The Zenith's control over humanity's DNA was gone. They had done it. But there was no time to celebrate. The facility was still crawling with soldiers, and they needed to escape before reinforcements arrived. "Let's go," Ethan yelled, signaling to the others. The rebels quickly regrouped, making their way back toward the ventilation shaft. They moved with the same quiet precision they had used to enter, slipping through the facility and out into the night. Outside, the air was crisp and cold, the stars above twinkling faintly in the sky. Ethan took a deep breath, his heart still racing from the battle. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. The Zenith would retaliate, and when they did, they would come with everything they had. But for now, there was hope. Humanity had proven that they were not bound by the genetic chains the Zenith had placed upon them. They had found a way to fight back, to reclaim their freedom. And Ethan knew that as long as they continued to push themselves, to evolve beyond the limitations imposed on them, they would eventually triumph. Mara approached him, her face flushed with the adrenaline of battle. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with quiet satisfaction. Ethan nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "We did. But this is just the beginning." She nodded in agreement, her gaze shifting to the horizon. "The Zenith won't stop, but neither will we. We've unlocked something they can't control, something they didn't see coming." Ethan looked out at the city, the once towering structures of alien design now looking less imposing in the face of their newfound strength. "The human spirit," he said quietly. "They'll never be able to take that from us." As the rebels made their way back to their hideout, Ethan felt a sense of calm wash over him. For the first time in years, he believed in the possibility of a future without the Zenith's control. They had discovered the power of the human mind and body, a power that transcended the limits of genetics and alien manipulation, and they would use that power to lead humanity to freedom.